What's up, y'all? This is Zach, Living Corporate, and you know what we do, right? It's a Tuesday. Hopefully you're bunkered in somewhere, not panicked, but what's the word? Oh, using an abundance of caution, and keeping away from folks that don't wash their hands. You already okay. Anyway, we're not gonna talk about. The point is, you're taking care of yourself. Maybe you're listening to some smooth jazz, and you realize, oh snap, I need to listen to the Living Corporate podcast, and here we are. So what's up? You know that we are centering Black and Brown voices at work. We do that by having authentic conversations with folks across a wide array of industries. Okay, I'm talking about energy to transportation to telecommunications. I'm talking about lawyers and doctors and professors and hourly employees, activists, influencers. I mean, anybody really, as long as they're willing and ready to really talk about the folks that are most impacted, most marginalized in this world that we live in. And today is no different. We have Bärí Williams on the show. Bärí Williams, she's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For me to try to, wrap that up in a quick little intro would be inappropriate. So we're going to get to know Bärí in this conversation and talk a little bit about what she has going on. And we hope you enjoy it. And with that being said, Bärí, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I know we were talking off mic about, staying Rona free.
Man, that Rona.
It's not playing though.
No.
They said Chuck got the Rona.
Yeah.
Chuck got that Rona. When Tom Hanks
got the Rona.
When Tom Ladarius Hanks got the Rona, I said, okay, we need to slow down.
Fire yourself. Tom Ladarius.
Man.
But also, yeah, because he's from Oakland.
He's from Oakland. And this is the thing. When he called Spades Big Whist, I said, oh, okay.
Oh, no. So here's the thing. The funny part about that is Tom Hanks was in my uncle's graduating class in the same high school in Oakland. So that's a real thing. Like, Tom Hanks knew about Big Whist and Spades.
Man. Well, see, I knew, the apple don't fall far from the tree.
Doesn't explain Chet Hanks.
We're not going to talk about Chet tonight.
I don't have anything for Chet.
Man, boy, that blackness went away when he realized his parents were sick, though.
Right. That patois was
I didn't hear it. I didn't.
Yeah, it was like, hey guys.
No patois ting.
Mom and Dad are sick, guys. Thanks for your prayers.
Says snap. He was tatted up though, but yeah.
He tried.
He did. But yeah. Okay. So, look, there's a variety of things we could talk about, right? Like a lot of stuff is going on. This is not typically a current events podcast. I do want to talk a little bit about the book that you have. Out on March 31st. Diversity in the Workplace, eye-opening interviews to get your conversations popping. I interviewed 25 different people, and what was super interesting about it is it was 25 people that I picked, and I got probably 5 or 6 interviews deep, and I told the editor, hey, I know we want to segment these into 5 different categories, right?
But all of these people are intersectional. So you can figure out where you want to put them. I'm not going to make that determination, because who am I to say that somebody being LGBTQ and Christian outweighs, maybe how they're gender fluid or express themselves. Right, I'm not going to.
Yeah. Not gonna rank that.
Yeah. Or how when I talk to 2 Black women in the spirits industry, I'm not going to rank whether they feel that they're Black first or woman first.
Right.
So you put them where you want them, but here they are.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think when you force, especially when I think about like Feminista Jones, like she talks about this from time to time. It's like this idea that you make Black women choose between their femininity, their womanhood, or their Blackness, and like that's violence, right? Like you need to let people be all of who they are.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I would say what's hard for me with that though is that I can only speak from my experience, but I have always been Black first.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that all the experiences of my life would not be different if I were still Black and a man. And that's like, wow.
Let's talk about that, though. Let's talk, like, break that down a little bit for me.
Child, we can talk about it. My mama literally just texted me and said, I fell asleep reading your book. This is really good. I didn't know people were out here living like this. But yeah, I feel like, and I've been told this before, and it probably isn't a secret to you. I can have a bit of a dominant personality.
And that kind of is strong.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like that's not abnormal for Black women.
It's not.
Period.
It's not. My mom is like that.
Exactly. And my mama's like that, and my son's mama is like that, which means me. So, I mean, if you're used to it, you know how to deal with it.
Right.
But the harder part, at least for me, is working within that framework in a corporate environment. What does that mean to be a strong Black woman in a white, predominantly male, sort of passive-aggressive environment?
Yeah, straight up. No,
and the answer is, I still don't know, because they say they want one thing, and then when they get it, they're like, "Ooh,
we didn't know we wanted." Yeah,
this is more than I thought.
Well, I think a lot of folks do say they want certain things, but it's like, right, when you finally experience this, particularly when it comes to, people say they want diversity, they want inclusion, and it's like, yeah, but until you're in a room,
it makes you uncomfortable,
until it makes you uncomfortable, and you're in a room and you're doing a presentation, and then 3 people who don't look like you raise their hand asking you a bunch of questions that you weren't prepared for, then all of a sudden you ain't really like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like, I touch on that a lot in the book. In the book, it's segmented into 5 different categories. So it's race, gender, age and ability, religion and culture, and LGBTQ.
Okay.
And when I say that I interviewed 25 people, actually interviewed more than 25, and let the editor decide what she thought. The editor was also a Black woman, which was like fantastic.
Yeah.
And so like, she got me.
Yeah.
And that's very rare, particularly in publishing. And she read it and she was like, yeah, these are really, really good. And this is hard to figure out where to put folks. Yeah, because you have people who are, dealing with issues around culture and race. Yeah. And then you have issues dealing with, sexuality and race. And then you have people dealing with gender and religion. And so, yeah, where do you put them? So out of the 25 people that we ended up selecting in the end, only 2 fit cleanly in one bucket. And what was interesting about that is they were both Asian men.
Okay. Yeah.
Everyone else was, fit into multiple categories. And that's one thing we talk about is like, how do you navigate being in multiple categories and fitting into a predominantly straight, white, male, able-bodied world?
And I think also like it pushes up against this narrative of, or this binary mindset that we have about everything, right? You're either this or you're that, or it's this or it's that. And it's like, that's just not the way the world works. And like, people are really complex. But I think like part of like this decentering of whiteness, particularly less white, male, straight, able-bodiedness, is forcing people to realize that not only like this, like these concepts are not new. It's just that certain things are happening now where you can't ignore those non-white male groups anymore.
And I think people are very, very uncomfortable with that theory. And so part of it is in the book, there are takeaways from each chapter.
Yes.
There are it starts with definitions in terms of like, what are some things you're going to see in here that people have said in their interviews that's going to be prevalent and super relevant, like white savior. Okay. And I didn't feel afraid to go there. Like, I know some people are going to be like, ooh, white savior. Like, so are you insulted? No, I'm not. But you also think you're wearing a cape and you can save us all. And that's not what we're asking you to do.
Right.
And
that's right.
And also, like, you need to know that you're doing this. It's white savior. It's understanding the difference between being cis and like people like just terms and things that people may not be familiar with, and to get them comfortable with the idea of that terminology and then how to use it.
I think that's really important too, right? So people are, we talk about white fragility. There's different types of fragility too. Black men can exhibit a certain level of fragility. I think people who are in any position of relative privilege now, have the potential to exhibit fragility. And I think folks don't necessarily like being educated when they're wrong. So like having something, a resource, and Google is free, y'all. So don't, but anyway.
Child, I tell people that all the time.
Google is free. Like I don't like even if like getting corrected in public or by another human makes you uncomfortable, you could at least, you could engage with your own fragility in private. But anyway, the point is having a book.
I will tell you, my husband is the product manager for Google.
Yes.
And he works on the Android wearables team. Okay. So he doesn't even actually work for the search engine. Okay. But when I ask him a question and he thinks it's dumb, he'll just send me the link. And I'm trying to remember the acronym, but basically the acronym stands for "Let me Google that for you."
Yeah, somebody sent that to me one time. And I was like, but this is the thing about that. And that's cute. That's cute when that's your husband and stuff. I'll tell you something. I remember one time I was at work and I asked somebody a legitimate question.
If somebody did that to me at work, though, I would want to fight.
I said, wait a second. Let me tell you what it's not going to be. You gonna answer my question? Okay, don't play with me.
Like there is a whole song out here in the Bay that was made that's called "What You Ain't Gonna Do."
Yes.
So,
well, that's because if I didn't have to talk to you, I wouldn't. So don't
go YouTube that, and you might want to make that the outro music. But but that's literally it's fine. Yeah, it's fine for Jamie to do that to me. But if somebody else did that to me,
yeah, don't play with me.
I would probably roll up on your desk.
So explain this. Why did you send this?
Right. So let's talk, Bob. Let me tell you what you ain't gonna do.
So what you ain't gonna do, and what ain't gonna be. Okay. So no, that's all. So let me ask you this though. So like, what was the inspiration to write the book?
Many things. I think. And this is gonna be long-winded and. Just go.
It's okay.
But I remember being 5 years old, and my mom is a retired teacher from Oakland Unified School District, and she and a couple of colleagues sat around our dining room table in our apartment, and they created what ended up being the Oratorical Festival, which, to our surprise, was made into a documentary on HBO last month. And she didn't know, and I didn't know. And she was like, "Oh, look at this." And I was like, "Yeah, also, why are you not in it?" But I let that go. I'm going to let that go and let God. And she actually, what's funny about it is she was like, "I don't care. Like, if somebody's talking about this and it still exists, like, that's enough."
Yeah.
Like, that was her goal.
Wow.
And so I remember sitting there looking at that, and I remember participating the first year. And I won in the first grade for like my category. And I was like, "Did you rig this?" and she was like, "No." But what it did was it gave me a voice.
Yeah.
And she cultivated that throughout my entire life. When I was in, doing debate team in high school and junior UN league, like all of that. So I always felt like I had something to say, and everything doesn't deserve a response.
Right.
I mean, I'm still learning that at 40. But she taught me, like, when something does deserve a response, make sure that you have a very calculated thing to say about it.
Yeah.
And so I started to do that. And then I decided to write. And it was writing articles and op-eds and New York Times and Fast Company and Fortune and Forbes, and it made me think there's a there. And there are things that people are not discussing in these tech companies that I see because I'm in them.
Yeah.
And we can't fix it if more people don't know it's a problem. So that's what led to it. But it was more than that. It was like, there are other people going through different struggles in different departments.
Right.
And other companies and other industries. And what does that look like?
Right.
And so that's why I ended up talking to, two Black women in the spirits industry. The spirits industry is dominated by older white men. And these are two, 30-something-year-old Black women with their own spirits.
Yeah.
And they're Christian. And so I told, that was one of the things where I told the editor, I don't know where you would put them. Do you want to put them in race or gender or religion?
Right.
But yeah, but they've had people ask them in their church, like, what are you doing? This is wrong. They've had people talk to them in the spirits industry, like, hey, girl, do you know what you're doing? Like, they get it on all levels.
Right.
And then it was talking to Rabia. Rabia is fantastic. She is the woman who did the defense for Adnan in Serial. And she talked about being, a woman being Muslim, wearing a hijab, and people, she knows she's a good attorney, but people would want her to write the briefs and do the background work, but not show up in court.
It's interesting because that's the kind of stuff I think, like, there's a pattern of that, right? Of exploiting Black labor or wanting the Black, like, using Black folks' thought capital, wringing them dry for their thought capital, only to then, for you to then take center stage in publicity and really interface, right? Like, you see it. I'm sure that I know because you engage in tech, like, you've been with StubHub and Facebook, like, you've been all over the place, right? Like, you've seen where, like, a lot of times Black folks will come from, like, these HBCUs or, like, with these engineering degrees and then, like, work in the back in security. Security, y'all, is not like tech security, not secure in the building. But anyway, like,
security in the building.
Yeah.
I will tell you the funniest thing to me when I got to Facebook was it was 2014. Facebook started in 2004. So it was 10 years afterward. I was the first Black woman in legal. There weren't Black people in legal. So I was the first Black person and the first Black woman. There were no AKAs at all in the company. So I was the first AKA in the company. They had no links in the company. Wow. I was the first link in the company. Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
And like, if you want a really highly qualified workforce, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated will get that done for you. The Links Incorporated will get that done for you. And there were only like 3 deltas in the entire company.
Shout out to my my sorority sisters. What's up, y'all? My mom is also an AK, but you really repping. Like, you really got on this podcast and, like, inserted that, plugged that. I respect that. I like that a lot.
Plug.
I respect it.
But that's the thing that I wanted people to understand too, is like, if you want a highly qualified workforce, and yes, they may not have direct on point experience, but we all have analogous experience from doing this nonprofit work.
Right.
And that's the thing that people discount or don't see. But like, you want to hire Brad in accounting, and he like did an internship for 2 months at his dad's firm.
Well, see, that's what I was about to say. It's like
what do you value?
Right. What are you? Well, when you start like holding them, so when you hold them accountable to the standards that they give you, right? So if you say, okay, well, you don't really have X, Y, and Z. Like, okay, well, show me somebody else who does have X, Y, and Z experience.
Yeah, show me what's comparable.
Show me something comparable. They pull them up, and it's like, yo, this person was he was like a DJ, or he worked at a GNC. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and so then things just quick humble, because it's like, this is not about this. Like, you're creating rules.
That's not really what you want, and that's fine.
Exactly.
But like, let's call a thing a thing.
Let's call a thing a thing. Like, I think again, like, it just fits the meta narrative of white people, like, creating new rules for marginalized people.
Well, it's something that I actually told an old boss and said, like, every time I hit the benchmark, you move the goalpost. Right. Are you aware of that?
Wow.
And he was like, what are you saying? And I said, what I'm saying is what I said.
I just said it, first of all.
Yeah. Child, when I tell, and that's the thing, is like, see, my mama should have never told me I should advocate because I literally said, I was like, no, I hit this benchmark and you told me if I did this, it would be that. Right. If I did X, it would be Y.
Right.
And now you're saying, but in order to get to Y, you really need to do, and I was like, nah, bruh,
That's not
You
what
said this, and I have it in writing, and I did that. So now what are we doing?
And you know, I think,
and he was like, why are you so angry?
He said, what now?
Why are you so angry?
What do you mean?
Well, I was like, what do you mean? Why I'm not angry. I'm just telling you this is what you said.
Right.
And now you're going back on it. And he's like, but you're angry. And I said, I'm not angry. I'm just holding you accountable. And maybe you're not used to that. But that's also not my job. Like that you should go home and talk to your mom or your wife about that. Like,
but you know what though? Like just as a thought exercise, let's just say I am angry. Okay. Maybe I'm.
Then what?
Then what? I am angry because you said you were going to do something and you didn't, or you said it was going to be one way and it isn't, or I have written documentation and you're gaslighting me by acting like this isn't real. So yeah, maybe I am angry. Does that make my point less valid?
And it doesn't. And like, these are stories that people go through in the book about how people gaslight them in the same way, whether it's about them being a woman or about them being Black or about them being Asian or about them LGBTQ. There is such a powerful story in there from a woman who's Asian who talks about like how her family essentially made her feel like she had to whitewash herself to be successful. And then when she got to college, it was like, I don't know how to relate to Asian people now. And then when she got in the workplace, she's like, now I have to relate to both. And how does that work? And that's real. Like, you know, how you're socialized and is how you end up projecting yourself to the world.
That's right. Knowingly or unknowingly. And that's the scary part, right? Like you end up doing this thing like where you're raised, like you're just growing up, like you're raised a certain way. And then you hit the real world and you realize like, dang, I have a lot of internalized depression. And like, I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm. And that is like, that honestly is one of the, it's funny because my son, he's 9.5. But when I had to finish this book towards the middle of October, I was so tired. When I tell you, child, on the last day before I had to hit submit, I was like, ugh. I stopped to watch like a Real Housewives marathon, and he came to me. He was like, what are you doing? And I was like, excuse you? And he said, Mommy, what are you doing? And I said, I'm taking a break. And he's like, are you done yet? And I said, do you understand what break means? And he's like, well, you let me take a break, but you give me a time. Like, you've been watching this for like 3 hours. Have you hit send? And I was like, no, I haven't. And he's like, okay. So then you get 1 more hour and then you need to finish. But to me, what I took that as was like, he wasn't being defiant. He was actually imposing the rules that I put on him.
That's right.
Which I was like, oh, so my parenting isn't totally failing.
No, he has internalized that level of accountability and he is giving you that same energy back.
Yeah, but the same energy I had to give him was like, I listened to so many stories about, marginalized communities interviewing these folks.
Right. Particularly
Black men.
Right.
And their experiences. And you don't get to mess up. And I've told him that. And so he's like, so why are you sitting here watching a Real Housewives marathon for 3 hours? You haven't pressed in, like, girl, get it done. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it's that same energy. It is. We have to be twice as good to get half as far. And that story with all of these people in the book, which was crazy because it cuts across everything. It cuts across disability. It cuts across sexuality. It's like you have to make up for who you are by doing more work.
I think about a conversation we just had with Ruchika Tulshan, and we were talking about how Black men are oftentimes left out of the corporate D&I initiatives, right? Like, so now sometimes people are thinking they're being really radical when they talk about the angry Black man. It's like, okay, I get it. That is a thing and that's real. But like just the larger conversation about how black men are treated. Like you said, we don't have opportunities to mess up. And the same thing can be said for black women, of course, for sure. And it's just this idea of labor and like having to do more just not to like, and I think
and you're not getting farther. It's just
oh my gosh, thank you. It's like I'm not doing more to get further or get farther ahead. I'm doing more just to be equal. I'm doing more just to receive what I've earned. Right?
I can tell you, my husband, he interviewed at a former employer of mine.
Okay.
My husband is 6'6" and like 235 pounds on a good day.
Well, he's lean. 235, 6'6"?
I said on a good day.
Okay.
So, but the way that he's built though is very like Michael Phelps. So he's broad.
Okay, got you.
So
okay, got it.
Yeah. So he looks bigger than he is.
Okay, got it.
And the feedback that they had is, and he also, because of his size and because he is black, he has been socialized. And also, he's light as hell. Like, I've had people ask me multiple times, oh, so your husband's biracial? No, he isn't. But people just assume that he is.
Okay. And
so based off of his profile, he's very light-skinned. He's 6'6". He's built like a swimmer. And people, he has been socially conditioned to basically, I don't want to say tamp down who he would be, but he's more docile.
Yeah.
Super reserved.
Yeah.
Which is why our dynamic works, because I'll be like the person in your face. And
it's tough to it's tough to be big when it's tough to be in your, like, I've learned that in a variety of different ways, but yeah, because like I keep that. I would say I'm probably more like you, Bärí. Like I'm like, hey yo, but like I'm like 6'2", like 280. So like I'm like a big dude. That's
still, but that, and you know that scares people.
It terrifies, and I'm not that, and I'm lighter skinned, but I'm not like light skinned, right? So like, you know,
and that is so scary for me with our son, because our son is darker than I am, and I'm brown skinned, and he's already 5 feet, and he's 9.
Yeah, he's gonna be a big boy.
Yeah, he will be, and I believe he'll be taller than his dad. And even if he isn't, it's like, if you are 6'6" and you're a brown skinned boy and you're in Oakland, I have to keep you safe.
Right.
And so everything I do is about, how do we keep you safe? And that sucks, because like, I wish you could just be free.
And it's not, and like, not even to be a super downer about it. I say this as someone who but maybe by the time of this podcast, my daughter is going to be here. But like, I think about having black kids in this world, and like, it's like there's the physical safety, but then there's a certain level of like psychological safety that you really can't protect them from. And like, there's certain things they're going to just have to, again, I'm not trying to be fatalist or like super like down, whatever.
Yeah,
but like,
you just have to go.
They just have to go. They're going to have to experience. And it's like the feeling of being isolated or alone or otherized or not quite fitting in spaces like that create like that. Like that's a thing, right? Like that's a thing. And, and you know, it's somebody that I really admire. Like there are people, like there are a bunch of folks I really admire, but I think about like Bomani Jones, right? So like, I think like he's somebody I see like in these spaces, and he never like on his like platforms ever talks about like being one of the onlys or whatever. Like some people are just built like that. He was like, I don't really, whatever, you know, I don't know. He doesn't seem like, he doesn't come across like really vulnerable in that way. But like, and I don't know, and this is not about both specifically, but I think about like other black men in media, or like in these like really like big profile spaces. And I just wonder like to be successful in these like hyper white spaces, do you just have to have like a certain level of just armor and like almost be just really calloused?
I think you do. That's one of the things also that I learned from doing interviews in the book, and that's not even unique to us.
Yeah.
Is like the folks who were dealing with LGBTQ and gender issues and gender expression,
yeah,
they had to deal with that in terms of like questioning them and like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like all of that stuff.
Right.
And I have full discretion. I know Bo. Like Bo and I are cool. And we've had that conversation. And part of it is like, to your point, it's not intentional. He doesn't mean to not say that. He just is like, I am who I am. And like, you gonna take it or you not.
Right.
And I honestly, have talked to him and have said like, I want that energy for my son.
Yeah.
I don't want him to feel like you have to have the burden of all black people ever on your back. Like,
yeah.
Both of those does Bo.
Right.
And but he still reps us.
Unquestionably,
and
yeah.
That's what I want. And that's what I want. That I see with my husband is like, it's funny because I look at him, we're very, very different. He has had probably every advantage you could have in life. Okay. Like he has gone to private school since he was born until.
We talked about this. Yeah.
Like he literally went to a private preschool, then he went to a private, elementary school, private school. He went to Harvard and then he went to Stanford. And I was like, bruh, you do not know like what it's like to live in like a real dorm.
Right.
But he still came to like, and he's from here too. He's from Oakland and came back and like tried to get in the Valley and couldn't beat down the door. Right. And this is what everybody says that they want, right? These credentials.
That's right. Yeah, he checked every box.
And also, this is a light-skinned dude, right? So he's less threatening.
Right. And I'm sure he talks very proper. I'm sure he enunciates his words well.
I call him MC Carlton, but I'm gonna let that.
So literally, his only knock is that he's black, and light black at that. Diet,
yeah. Well, not even that. It's just also. So that was one of the things. So when I said I had an employer who interviewed him. He got to the end of the round.
Okay.
And they decided that they didn't want him. They cut him from they were hiring between him and one other person.
Okay.
They cut him because they said, oh, he didn't show enough passion. He wasn't willing to bang on tables.
Come on.
So when they gave me that, no, child, when they gave me that feedback, I said, okay, so let's stop and envision this. Do you want a 6'6", 235-pound black man banging on tables? You're going to be comfortable with that?
And they said what?
They were like, well, what are you implying? And I said, okay, I said what I said.
Don't play with me. I'm not implying.
Yeah, I was like, I said what I said. I didn't imply anything. I just said what I said. So if you saw that, you would feel safe. You would be cool.
I mean, real talk. Would you answer the question?
Well, they were like, no, I mean, he didn't show passion. I was like, that's not what I asked. What I asked
cool
was that? If you saw a 6'6" bald black man banging a table to motivate engineers, you're cool with that. And nobody could answer it definitively. And I was like, and that's why you didn't hire him. So thank you. And I'm going to go catch the shuttle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I'm not going to participate in this.
No,
this
like what are we doing? Like it's not. Yeah, this is ridiculous. It's super ridiculous.
He's super reserved, and he's super reserved because he knows that he is a large black man, and he can't do that.
Well, let me tell you about it's how things come back full circle. But I applied to this when I first get into consulting. I was between a few different firms, and one of the firms, and they were all like big four, right? So one of the firms I applied to, I went through the process, and they said, "Oh, he was too passionate. He was too excited about the job. He smiled too much." So I'm just laughing at this situation because it's like, okay, so you can't win for losing, right? I literally was the one smiling, talking about how excited I was. They said, well, no, he looked like he knew what he was doing, but he just seemed a little too smiley, a little too excited. He was a little too high, a little too passionate for us.
But if he had been extra excited, y'all would have been like, "Oh my God, the black guy scared me because he's so big."
Exactly.
So, and what I hate about this is like having to teach my son these rules of the road because it's different in certain ways. He has my actually he's darker than my complexion, and he has his daddy's stature.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be extra targeted because you are a super brown boy and you're going to be very tall. So you have to be on your P's and Q's at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong.
And he's so mad because he does Kumon in addition to his regular schoolwork. Mm-hmm. And he's like, Mommy, I'm tired all the time. And I was like, what do you think my life is? What do you think your daddy's life is?
Yeah.
What do you think grandma's life is?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. And like, I hate to tell you that, but you have to do more and do it faster and do it better.
Right.
And you're going to have to do it even faster and even better than your dad. Because your dad gets some sort of benefit from, having, been a Harvard legacy and he's light skinned. Like,
it's true.
Light skin, let's go further. I'm sorry. It's true.
We've yet to talk about colorism like on the podcast, like explicitly, but like we need to talk about it because colorism.
Let's talk about it. We can do it right now.
It's a global. I want to respect your time because we went over. So, but no, it's a global phenomenon, right? And I think like it goes beyond just like the African diaspora.
That's true. It's so true for our Indian comrades.
Yeah.
That is very true for our Latinx comrades. Mm-hmm. Like, that's just the truth.
I was in the HEB. HEB, for the folks who are not in Houston, HEB is a huge grocer. So I was in HEB and I was getting some different like sauces and stuff. And I was in the Indian food or the cultural food aisle and walked right on by some lightning cream.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So it's super common. And I think like even when you look at like these corporatized DNI groups, the Latinx folks are typically European, like white presenting. You know what I mean? Like they're not like, you don't see a lot of, again, it's common, but because it's so pervasive and I don't want to say subtle because it's not subtle if you're paying attention, but it's just common, right? Like the lighter skinned people, it's hard to be dark and in power,
Yeah. Yeah. And that is for me, just a personal thing that I want my son to embrace. And the reason being is like, everybody, my mom is light skinned and my dad was not, and they got divorced when I was 3. So I don't even remember, I have no memory of living with them together. And so it was really my mom and her family, and everybody in her family is light skinned. And I'm the only brown person. I was like, what's going on here? Yeah. So, but what's interesting here is my husband is light skinned and I'm brown. Our daughter is lighter than my husband and our son is darker than me. So it's like, they don't match at all.
I love that y'all have a whole like kaleidoscope going though.
We do actually, we have shirts. I have a whole shirt. I need to send you one,
please.
It's real. It's ghetto.
I like that. I like that energy though.
It's ghetto. It's a unicorn throwing money.
Okay.
And out. And there are different shades of the unicorn. Aww. And I picked the different shades based off of the people in our family.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. But I mean, like, get this money. Do this work. You can do it whatever shade you are. That's my point.
I love
But for him, I want him to understand there are going to be different restrictions for you.
Yeah.
Because you're likely to walk out of here one day when you're 16 and you're going to be 6'6" and you're going to be super brown and you are really fine. And so you need to be aware of the danger. And then opposite is like your sister is light skinned. She has very loose curly hair. And so people are going to treat her in a completely different manner and think she's fine, even though she may not be. And not that I'm saying she's not cute. She is. But I'm like,
but there's biases. There's biases that come with being light skinned with a certain, there's a certain aesthetic that she could fit into that then makes it easier.
And she does. And I want to make sure that she doesn't buy into that. And that's what we're dealing with here. And that's what I deal with in the book is like, how do you handle this? You have people in multiple categories. What are the proper terms? What are the issues that are around that? And how do you deal with it? Like even something as simple as the fact that like, I literally have never had braids or crochets or anything in my entire life. And I decided to get it last summer because I was tired of doing my hair and then my daughter's hair.
Yeah. Something got to give.
Yeah. And my daughter has a looser curl than I do, but her hair is thick. And it's like, I'm not spending 3 hours on a Sunday doing this. So I took her to the salon so that they could do it. And then I started getting crochets. But now she's like, I want to go to the salon. So now it's like, okay, now we have to reset in terms of privilege.
Right.
Because everybody doesn't get to go to the salon. Like my mama did my hair till I was 13. So holla at grandma.
So let's get back to this book, right? Like it's coming out March 31st.
Yes.
Eye-opening interviews. The goal is to help jumpstart conversations about identity, privilege, and bias, y'all. The book is called Diversity in the Workplace. Listen, y'all, make sure you check it out right now. Maybe because of that Rona, we might be having these conversations on Zoom or Skype.
I mean, you're going to be quarantined because of that Rona anyway, so you might as well read this.
You definitely should read the book. In fact, you know what? Why don't you challenge yourself?
And there's an audio book version too if you don't even want to read it. Somebody can just read it.
Come on now. Like, challenge yourself to read the book. And then that way, when you go back to work, because Lord say the same, the Rona won't be here forever. Okay. So you eventually will have to go see people, right?
I mean, the Rona won't. It'll be replaced by something else.
Oh, goodness. You're right, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's Trump. So. Yeah.
That's true.
Something else might kill us in the meantime.
Who knows? I don't know. They say they got all these locusts over in Africa. It's like hundreds of billions of them over there. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that too.
It's spooky out here.
What disease are they carrying?
Listen, I don't know.
Okay, I'm just let that go. Okay, let go.
Shut the thought. So look, y'all. Listen, y'all. This has been Living Corporate, right? We do this, right? We have conversations. We really excited and we're thankful. All jokes aside, please make sure you're washing your hands. Okay. We have information on from the CDC in the show notes. Hopefully you're washing your hands as you listen to this podcast. I don't know, like wash your hands. Okay. Soap is important also. Now,
and Bärí.
Yeah.
Water is not
soap. I want to hold on. Water is not soap. Okay. So you want to use the hard industrial. So use that Irish Spring if you need to. I personally use doo-doo a song because I am bougie, but you can use what? Yeah,
I use Olay, but whatever.
Olay is also nice. Olay is nice, but use something that is frankly a little abrasive. Okay, get that first, just that half layer off your skin. Like wash your hands, y'all. And then, just take care of yourself. Fist bumps and head nods only. This actually could be a good opportunity for allyship and learning.
Well, here's the thing. So even with the fist bumps, so with the social distancing, blah, 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 it's supposed to be 6 feet. If you bump into it, no, you're not within the 6 feet.
You're right.
Yeah.
No fist bumps. So this will be a good time, actually, for those who
head nod at people and wave.
Head nods. So we all know how to do a head nod, but this may be a time for my less melanated folks, my aspiring allies, to learn how to effectively head nod and don't throw your neck out of your body when you do it. So
I didn't know that was.
We're just nodding too hard, right? Like the head nod is supposed to be subtle, nuanced, right? Like there's. I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing. I feel like in the South, like our head nod is different. And I definitely believe between the various melanin levels, head nods can be various levels of aggression. That's all. That's all I mean. Maybe a little salute also with 2 fingers at the head. Just, hello, I see you over there. But just be careful. Take care of yourselves. And we'll get through this together. In the meantime, make sure y'all check out the link in the show notes as well for Diversity in the Workplace, eye-opening interviews to jumpstart conversations about identity, privilege, and bias, written by Bärí A. Williams. Until next time, y'all, this has been Zach. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.